Are we crazy for believing in conspiracy theories? Or do we just look around and see that not everything they tell us is true? Are we skeptics? Or has some of the theories we believed in come true? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of The Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Danny Mercy, and today you're going to follow me down the rabbit hole of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. And this actually can perfectly explain why we as a society believe in conspiracy theories. So let's start with what is a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory is a belief that some covert but influential organization is responsible for a circumstance or event. So most of the time today in our society, we believe that the government is behind most conspiracy theories. I think almost all of them you hear about either the government being behind it, the New World Order, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, some sort of very influential or behind the scenes organization. So that's what conspiracy theories are. And today we're going to get into the Gulf of Tonkin incident. So the Gulf of Tonkin incident happened in 1964. At the beginning of August. So August 2nd, we were actually attacked by the North Vietnamese. And then August 4th, we were supposedly attacked by the North Vietnamese. And for a long time, this was a conspiracy theory. But until the early 2000s, since the early 2000s, when the Freedom of Information Act released over 200 documents kind of confirming all the theories out there, right? So what happened to the Gulf of Tonkin incident, and why did we actually get into the Vietnam conflict? So right after JFK was assassinated, Secretary of Defense McNamara and Lyndon B. Johnson, now President Johnson, were starting to increase military pressure in South Vietnam against the North Vietnamese, right? The military and the CIA were working together to train the South Vietnamese to help them with strategic attacks on the North Vietnamese because if you remember correctly, the North Vietnamese, we were really worried about Ho Chi Minh becoming president and communism taking over, and we were in the height of the Cold War. We did not want more communism in the world. I mean, even now we could say that there's a bunch of conflicts because of communism. Okay, so by the end of July 1964, naval ships were in the area. You know, we weren't directly in the Gulf of Tonkin yet, but we were definitely going there. So on August 2nd, which is the day we were actually attacked by the North Vietnamese, the USS Maddox was in the Gulf of Tonkin, and Captain Herrick had received and intercepted communications from the North Vietnamese suggesting that there would be an attack a couple days prior, so he had retreated days before, but on August 2nd, he was in the area, and then 3 torpedo boats were coming up on them, right? So they radioed back, said, hey, there's some torpedo boats, they're coming up. They said, okay, fire warning shots if they get within 10,000 feet, or 10,000 yards, excuse me. Of course, the torpedo boats sped up, and the USS Maddox fired 3 warning shots. Well, the North Vietnamese was not about to have that, so they made their attack right after that. They sent their torpedoes towards us, and we went ahead and retreated. But the USS, there was a nearby aircraft carrier, the USS Ticonderoga, and they sent up some planes to, just kind of watch the situation. And the USS Maddox, thank God, evaded the torpedo attacks. They suffered slight damage, but not too bad, and they sailed off to safer waters. Everything was totally okay. But then, on August 4th, the USS Maddox returned, and they were actually accompanied by the USS Turner Joy that day, because 2 days prior, they had been attacked. That day, there were really rough seas. There was kind of like a huge storm outside, rough seas, and the destroyers stayed like several miles off the coastlines of the Gulf of Tonkin, but they were still intercepting messages and different things like that. And then they started receiving radar and sonar blips. And these blips were suggesting that there was a ship or multiple ships inbound. They were going to be attacked again. And the sonar blips were bouncing. What they didn't know at the time, they were bouncing off the USS Turner Joy. They weren't actually under attack. However, the USS Maddox was extra vigilant because they were just attacked 2 days prior. So when they started getting these radar blips and these sonar blips suggesting that they were under attack, they started shooting. Later, they came to find out, and the aircraft carrier had the same planes flying overhead again. Came to find out that really the sonar blips were bouncing off of other U.S. ships, the USS Turner Joy, and the radar blips was just the crazy waves coming up and just inexperienced sonar and radar technicians. So during the attack, Captain Herrick had sent some messages up to Washington saying, hey, we're under attack. And then a few hours later, hey, it was all a misunderstanding. We weren't actually under attack. We think, with the crazy weather and our inexperienced radar and sonar techs, we think that maybe it was just all a misunderstanding.
Did you know that over 40% of Americans have a hard time swallowing pills? So when it's time to take your vitamins, large capsules and pills are out of the question. We know that gummy vitamins exist, but they're full of sugar, they get stuck in your teeth, and they only contain a fraction of the nutrients you need. Luckily, Easy Melts has discovered the ultimate vitamin sweet spot. Vitamins that melt in your mouth, taste like a treat, and are packed with nutrients ready for absorption, all without an ounce of sugar. For a limited time, Easy Melts is giving listeners a free 3-month supply of vitamin D3 with their first purchase. To claim your free D3 vitamins, visit try.easymelts.com/spring24. That's try.melts.com/spring24. Say goodbye to the old way of taking your vitamins and say hello to the easy way. Menopausal and perimenopausal women, listen up. It's time to take control of your health and comfort, and Winona is here to help. Winona is a telemedicine company for menopause care who believes that your symptoms are real, important, and deserve to be taken seriously. And for many women, this starts with hormone replacement therapy. Winona's HRT is made with plant-based, bioidentical hormones rather than synthetic ones, so it better aligns with your body to offer relief from hot flashes, weight gain, and other uncomfortable symptoms. 80% of women who use Winona find relief within just 90 days. So, what are you waiting for? Get started today. Visit buywinona.com today to start your free visit. With free shipping and the ability to pause or cancel at any time, your path to wellness has zero obligations. Use code SPRING24 at buywinona.com for 25% off your first treatment plan. That's BYWINONA.com for 25% off. Winona. Menopause care made easy.
During all this, of course, the USS Turner Joy had actually never detected anything, and neither did the planes flying overhead. Like, nobody besides the USS Maddox had actually seen or heard anything else going on. So they do really chalk it up to the inexperienced technicians. And I mean, honestly, I think it's just the hypervigilance of the crew being attacked just days before. Of course, not liking that the North Vietnamese was attacking our ships, President Johnson decided to give a speech, and he did receive the information prior to giving his speech that it was all just a misunderstanding, that we weren't actually under attack the second time. Secretary of Defense McNamara and President Johnson decided to go ahead and go forward and enter the Vietnam conflict, even though we weren't actually attacked a second time. Yes, we were attacked once, but not the second time. Commander Stockdale was one of the pilots that was flying over the Maddox the both days that there was an attack, or the one day there was an attack, the August 2nd, and the supposed attack on August 4th, and he knew that we were going to war under false pretenses. However, he was ordered to lead a strike of 18 aircraft against an oil storage facility located just inland of the alleged Gulf of Tonkin incident. And that was the first overt military action the U.S. had against the North Vietnamese, and that really got us into the conflict. And just 2 days later, after that airstrike, on August 7th, 1964, Congress approved the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, which gave the president authority to increase U.S. involvement, and that's really what got us into the Vietnam War. At that point, we were in, and there was nothing that they could do about it. So, of course, in the early 2000s, like I said previously, the Freedom of Information Act released tapes and documentation stating that it was all false, that we got into the Vietnam conflict off of false pretenses. And, of course, many people believed all along that we got into the Vietnam conflict over so many false pretenses. In fact, in 1967, a former naval officer, John White, spoke to the men that were involved in the alleged attack and wrote a letter stating, quote, "I maintain that President Johnson, Secretary McNamara, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff gave false information to Congress in their report about U.S. destroyers being attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin." The government's never going to confirm that they did or did not do anything nefarious. We all know that our government is notorious for nefarious things. But one of the documents that was released to the public in 2005 is a study by NSA historian Robert J. Hayok. He conducted an analysis of the records from the night of the attacks and concluded that while there was indeed an attack on August 2nd, nothing malicious happened on August 4th. So, putting it all together, was there really any reason for us to get into the Vietnam conflict? I understand we want to stop communism. I'm not trying to say that, but did we have to get into it this way? Probably not. This is not the first time nor the last time that our government does something like this. Of course, there's the theories out there about President Roosevelt knowing that the attack on Pearl Harbor was going to happen, but he wanted to get us into the Second World War. I mean, this is just one of many examples of our government trying to get us into conflicts that our country doesn't want to be in. And Vietnam was quite controversial with the draft and with so many people opposing the war, and there's movies and songs and everything else about it. So maybe this was the only way for us to get into the war, but did we really need to be in the war? Did so many Americans need to lose their lives because we wanted to stop communism? Maybe the South Vietnamese could have done it by themselves. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening this week to the Gulf of Tonkin incident, and I will see you all next week. Stay weird, guys. If you like the show, please leave us a rating and review wherever you are listening. Follow us on Instagram at rabbit.holepodcast. The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with all research, writing, editing, and producing done by me, Danny Mercy. Special thank you to Zakar Valaha Music.